Hi guys, my name is Catherine and today we're going to be looking at the lattice method of multiplication and how it can be used within a primary school. So as we can see here, this is an example of the lattice method of multiplication, and the first thing that you'll notice is that the grid that is used has as many columns as the first digit and as many rows as the second digit. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to draw up a grid much like this, or however many rows and columns that you need, and then you're going to want to draw diagonal lines going from the top right all the way down to the bottom left. Now these diagonal lines have to go through every box. From there you're going to start your multiplication. So you start with the right number and you multiply it by the top number. So 2 times by 1 is 2. The 2's go in the bottom box here, which is our ones box, and a 0 goes in the top box, which is our tens box, because we have no tens. From there we move on to completing the right by the bottom. So 2 times by 5 is 10, the 1 goes in the tens box and the 0 goes in the ones box. Then we move to our left number up here and we go left times by the top. So 1 times by 1 is 1. 1 goes in the bottom box, and 0 goes in the tens box. 1 times by 5, so our left by our bottom. 1 times by 5 is 5, so 5 goes in the ones box and 0 goes in the tens box. From there we add, going down our diagonal lines. So we start at the bottom here and we go 0 plus nothing is 0, and we write that underneath the grid there. 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 5 is 8, and we write that at the bottom of the grid there. 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 0 is 1, so we write 1 at the bottom of the grid there, and 0 plus nothing is 0. So this number down the bottom here is now our answer. So we know that 12 times by 15 is 180. We can also use this with decimal multiplication. We do exactly the same method as before, except before we come to our answer at the bottom here, we need to find where the decimal place goes. This is quite simple. All you have to do is follow the lines from the decimal place down to where they meet. So they meet in this point here. Then you find the adjoining diagonal line and you follow that down to the bottom. Where this meets with our numbers on the bottom, that's where the decimal place goes there. So we can see that 1.3 times by 2.3 equals 2.99. So an activity that you can do with children in primary school is have them create a flowchart of how the lattice method of multiplication works. They can use technology, much like I've done here myself, or they can draw it by hand. So as you can see here, I've drawn the grid, I've put in my numbers, and then I've started my multiplication. So right by the top, right by the bottom, left by the top, and left by the bottom. And then I've gone and added up diagonally along the lines, and then finally I've found where my decimal place goes. So before you complete an activity such as this with children, they must have some key prior knowledge, such as the key multiplication concepts. They need to know and understand these. So repeated addition and arrays. They need to know that multiplication is repeated addition, but it can also be displayed as arrays. Students also need to have the quick recall of basic multiplication, because the lattice method of multiplication only uses single digit multiplication. They should know up to their 9-time tables, or have a method of quickly being able to figure out them quick multiplications. If you're using the lattice method with decimal point multiplication, they also need to know what the decimal point represents and the place value that system that's around it. So what after the decimal place means and what before the decimal place means. These activities are good to use in a classroom because once a student has created their own flowchart, it can be placed around the classroom. This then becomes a constant reminder of how to use that method and that strategy, so that if they come to a multiplication that is a bit too difficult for them to do mentally, they can look up at that strategy and go, I can use that to complete this multiplication. Some misconceptions that students may face while completing multiplication is that it might be confusing for them to find out where the decimal point is, where it goes in the answer. The lattice method of multiplication is good for this misconception because finding where the decimal place goes is exactly the same every time they complete a multiplication equation. It is important, though, for teachers to reiterate the importance of a zero. If they forget it in the lattice method, it can be quite difficult for them to come to an answer, so it always needs to be written and represented. This is the links to Oswald's that the lattice method of multiplication has, and you can see that it starts right at level 3. So students will start to explore multiplication all the way in level 3, all the way up to level 6. When they reach level 6, that's when they will start exploring multiplication with both fractions and decimals. So that is a good place to introduce how to find the decimal place with the lattice method of multiplication. Alrighty, that's about it, guys. This is my reference list if you want to go and have a look where I found my information. So there you go. See you next time.